Hey, fellow storytellers, let me ask you a question. How confident are you that your content actually connects in every market? If you're guessing, it might be time to check out Phrase. Phrase is the industry-leading AI localization platform that helps you deliver content in multiple languages without losing your tone, your message, or your mind. It automates the manual work, slashes review time, and gives you real data on what's working where. Brands like Uber and Zendesk trust Phrase to scale their content across the globe and get it right every time. If you're serious about reaching more people and driving better results internationally, head over to phrase.com/MPN and take a look. That's phrase.com/MPN.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business. The one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. At WordWrite, we call this your capital S story because it stands above all the other stories that an organization shares. It defines the very character and nature of an organization. On every episode of Storylines Live, we bring you expert insights from business leaders who can share how their stories have helped propel growth in their organizations so that you and your organization can get better results from sharing the most important story you own, your own. And today, I'm in the hot seat again with my colleague Tara DeRazio, and we are going to explore some topics that we've been asked about quite frequently. How people actually learn about stories. Tara, take it away.
Yeah, so Paul and I were chatting, and we were talking about just the different ways that people digest content. So we thought we would do an episode on really the psychology behind that. Putting something out on your website or on your blog, you have a really specific goal in mind probably, but you also have to think about how many people are looking at it, how are they looking at it, how differently are they looking at it,
right? And
really what that goes into first is, Paul, there's different types of learners.
Yes.
So for anyone and you've probably heard this before, but just to break it down, what are the types of learners so people know?
So there's more than one methodology that you can use, Tara, to understand how people learn, but the one that I like to use because it's easy to remember, because there's three styles, it's called neurolinguistic programming. And there are three kinds of learners: visual learners, auditory learners, and experiential learners. And let's talk about what the differences are. I often like to think about a cooking show. So I want to learn to cook a particular dish. If I'm a visual learner, I'm going to watch the episode featuring that dish. Done. I have learned what I need to know. I am going to go make that dish. If I'm an auditory learner, I'm going to watch the show, but I'm also going to download the recipe and study it. And if I'm an experiential learner, I'm going to say, how interesting. Screw it. I'm going to take a cooking class and just do it, right? So all of us in our lives know people who learn these different ways. And one of the things that's critical to understand about how people take in content is not everybody is the same, okay? So some people are primarily visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are primarily experiential. Depending upon which study you look at, about 25 to 40% might be visual learners, about 20 to 30% might be auditory learners, and another 25 to 40% might be experiential learners. So, in fact, Tara, what kind of learner are you?
I was just thinking about that. So yes, I would probably say auditory learner. And I was going to ask you, before you tell us what you are, for people that maybe haven't thought about this, what would be a good indicator? They got to go back to when they were at school, or how would you tell someone to really understand what their best learning style is? What would be a good way for people to think about that? Or are there maybe quizzes online or something like that?
There are quizzes online. There are a lot of great resources online to dig more deeply into the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic is the technical term for experiential. Think about the words you use to describe something. If you use words such as see, look, then you're primarily a visual learner.
Right.
If you say things like, that rings a bell with me, that sounds right, you're more of an auditory learner. And if your language gravitates more towards show, feel, you're probably an experiential or kinesthetic learner. The challenge in communicating stories is that you need to hit all three of those.
Right. So before we dig into that, what type of learner are you?
So I've worked very hard to broaden my scope of how I see the world. Get it? So primarily probably like you, Tara, I started out more as an auditory learner, but also a very experiential learner.
Right.
And I've worked hard to pay more attention to the visual aspect of things. In fact, frequently at WordWrite, we will talk about what we do. We'll say, we want to share your great untold story with everyone who needs to see, hear, or experience it. And now that you've gotten this far in the episode, you know why we talk about things that way, because we want to hit all kinds of learners.
That makes perfect sense. So as brands are thinking about, okay, I have to appeal to everyone, but yet I have to appeal to everyone differently.
Yes.
How can they do that effectively using what they have available to them?
The very first thing is to be aware that there are different learning styles. There was a Canadian expert on communication, Marshall McLuhan. He's famous for saying the media is the message. Another quote that I believe he said, but audience, correct me if I'm wrong, fact check us. The greatest problem in communication is the illusion that it's been achieved. So if you think about organizations led by very capable leaders, they're going to gravitate primarily towards one sort of learning style. So when they're sharing information, content, a story, whatever, they're naturally going to gravitate to being visual or auditory or experiential, right? Well, what about the people in the organization or the customers or prospects who have different learning styles? So the number one thing is you have to be aware. And then beyond that, it's a matter of selecting the right channels to reach all of your learning styles.
Okay. I think this is a good place to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll break down how you can use some of the social media platforms to your best benefit.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we're back, and Paul, we were just going to get into, okay, we know that there are different learners. We have to present our content. Even if it's the same content, we have to present it in different ways. This isn't about reinventing the wheel each time.
Correct.
You have a message to share. You need to appeal to different types of learners. Where do we go on social media, and maybe which platforms, of course, work best for which learners? And then in your experience, how can you use all of them effectively without having to do, having to do so much that it becomes overwhelming?
That's a great question, Tara. And I'm going to start with the number 2 search engine on the internet. Number 1 search engine, nobody's going to miss this question. It is Google. Do you know what number 2 is?
Well,
it's a trick question.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Tara.
I don't know.
YouTube.
Okay. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
All right. So let's start answering your question by starting with YouTube.
Okay.
You ask most people, what style or learning style does YouTube address? Visual, they would probably say, right? Because it's all about videos. There's transcripts available in YouTube. Why did YouTube add that? Oh, could it be because of what we were just talking about?
Right.
It'll automatically generate captions. Now, sometimes they're wrong, and if you're going to use the captions on YouTube, you can't edit them, and please do.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Do you know, Tara, that one of the top music streaming platforms is YouTube?
Yeah,
lots of people listen to music on YouTube.
Yeah.
And bands will put their music there, and there might be a cover of the album as the picture.
Right.
But they're just streaming the music.
Right.
So I start there because you can see how one platform has covered all 3 of the learning styles, even though most people would think of it predominantly as a visual platform.
Yeah.
Now, Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, short content. There used to be a time when it was primarily written and it was only 140 characters.
Right.
Then we got some little pictures in there. And then we got Vine. Remember Vine?
Yes, I do remember
short
Vine.
videos. And now you can put videos on. You can do live streams on X, right? The same is true with Facebook and also LinkedIn. So you can hit every kind of learning style on the biggest social media platforms.
I was going to ask you, so let's say I'm posting something on LinkedIn, I have this great message. Is it easy enough to just, I'm going to add a chart or I'm going to add something here to catch those visual learners in a little more and still have the message here, but just kind of add that other layer for the people that maybe want something else, or the audio clip, whatever it is? How can you kind of just layer things so that, again, you're not redoing work, you're just adding pieces to it?
Yes. So that's another great question. And I will say that all of the major platforms are focusing on video first.
Right.
So even LinkedIn, which is a great platform for its intended purposes, but I would just describe them as being a late adopter of things you'll see on the other platforms. They want you to post video first. Now, what does that mean? That means if I'm going to post a video on LinkedIn, and at WordWrite we do post a lot of videos on LinkedIn, and I want people to read something, I'm probably going to have to put that in the comments and not in the post itself. And as you just mentioned, Tara, and when you talk about Instagram, if you're posting a reel or a video and you try and put content in the caption, that's not going to work as well. People who do post word-related content on Instagram, and we've seen a lot of celebrities do this when they're involved in a crisis or whatever, and they have a statement to make.
Yes.
They'll make a post, and that post will be in a regular post and not as a caption, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you can put text on top of a reel or a video too, so that you can at least get something there with text, and then encourage people to go down and look at the caption if there's a deeper message or something that they would need to read. Kind of sometimes there's just things you need to read.
Yes.
Exactly. So with our our screen shut off.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, we apologize
sorry about
for
that. I'll turn it back on.
Yeah, give us a minute. Okay, so we've talked a lot about captions and writing, but let's talk, obviously, what we're doing right now, podcasting.
Absolutely.
So people are listening to us, people are watching us. Now that we've added this layer because we knew it was important that, again, some people are visually wanting to watch this.
Right.
So tell me about why you think podcasts are important, and how people listen and why that makes a difference to them versus seeing something.
Oh, absolutely. So, I left the office yesterday and I turned the corner around the building, and what was somebody doing coming the other way? They were in their phone and they walked right into me. Okay.
Right.
So here's the thing about podcasts. Even if you're not primarily an auditory learner, it is the only thing you can do safely multitasking.
Right.
You can be on a long drive, you can listen to an audiobook, to a podcast, and you're perfectly safe. You cannot drive your car safely and consume video content.
Right.
That just is not going to work, right? So there is a benefit to podcasts, and they have a long shelf life, and you can dig more deeply into a topic, right? If you think about the extremes, let's just say the ends of the spectrum, you got TikTok on one end, right? And I can swipe up and I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, much faster than any other social platform, right? And a podcast, I can be in there for a long time. Now, confession, I listen to everything in a podcast at 1.25 speed.
Okay.
1.5 seems a little too fast.
Yeah.
But if it's 30 minutes and I can get it done, in 20-some minutes, yes.
Yeah.
Right? And my comprehension, there's been studies done on this, it still works very well.
And great that that's even an option, because you
Yes.
don't have that option with other forms
Correct.
of content.
Correct.
For sure. I know I'm putting laundry away, I have a podcast in.
Yes,
so even though I
yeah.
have to do this, tedious task over here, I'm still learning something. And I think that's a great thing with listening, is
Absolutely.
you can literally be doing anything else that you need to do.
Yes.
In the house or wherever it may be, out walking the dog, whatever, and
Mowing
really
the
have
lawn.
that. Yeah,
Yard
anything.
work.
Yeah, you're
Sharp
doing
objects, you can still be safe.
You're doing something anyway.
That's what I
Why
do.
not also add a layer in
Yeah.
of learning?
Yes.
So this leads us to now AI, of course, and we've talked about
Right.
it in multiple episodes. AI is going to come into play to help us
Yes.
build things for all learning styles. So
Yes.
tell me how you think people can use AI to help them with content creation.
So AI is a tool, right? And like any other tool in life, it has good intended uses and poor intended uses.
Right.
So let me give you an example of a questionable use first. Notebook LLM, which is a Google product, I can feed it a piece of content, and two anonymous voices will turn it into a podcast.
Yeah.
An unnamed man and an unnamed woman. It is freaky, and it is getting better and better. However, I would not advise that anyone just do those sorts of things with AI.
Right.
AI is, however, very smart. And you can give AI a piece of content, a video you shot, a podcast, something you've written, and you can ask your favorite platform, how can this content be adapted for other learning styles? I mean, you can go right in and say, this is a video, it's designed for visual learners. What are your recommendations on how to adapt this content for auditory learners or experiential learners? And you'll get a decent answer. Now, the thing is, like cooking, you still need a chef, right? And you're
Right.
the chef.
Right.
So AI will give you some good ingredients,
Yeah.
but it's just raw material, right?
Exactly.
And you really need to get in there and handle it yourself.
What are some of the things that you just want people to not use the AI for? Where would it be that won't help?
So I think that right now, where things stand, I would not be using AI for unmonitored, unmanaged content creation. Folks refer to this as hallucinations, that AI will create content maybe that doesn't exist. And some of the most infamous examples have come from the legal field, where attorneys have asked AI to help with case citations, and AI engines have come up with cases and citations that don't exist. And some attorneys have been sanctioned by judges for doing this. In the marketing and PR realm, generally speaking, you're not going to be sanctioned by a judge. At least I'm not aware of any cases where that's happening. But it's not a good idea to let the horse run free without a rider.
Yeah.
You really need to have somebody managing the process on any kind of content creation. Is it a good idea to take a long-form piece of content and ask AI to create 10 social posts? Yeah, you'll get 10 decent ideas, but you better be editing them and customizing them to reflect the voice of the organization you represent, or if it's for you, your own voice.
Yeah, exactly. And, that can help you with things like your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely.
That's what I was doing, putting things in there, just seeing, how am I best representing, you want people to see everything that you're able to do on these profiles and your business can do and what you can do for businesses and what we do for our clients. And if someone's coming to a page and looking, why would I hire Tara and Paul to do this, or this? Oh, here's all these experiences they've had. But if it's confusing, to them, it's confusing to someone else. And you also, again, have to have videos, audio, whatever you can do to kind of have this well-rounded view. And that's, again, for personal or for your business. So it's really just about understanding how many different learners are out there.
Yes.
And then how can we, fit all of this into the boxes that work best for them.
Absolutely. And folks, if you're listening or watching or however you're consuming this, I guess to be experiencing it, you'd have to be here with us in the studio. So I guess we're striking out on that one. But we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to know what you think about how people learn, how people consume content, and the best ways to reach the various styles of learning that demonstrate success and communication. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Storylines Live. Tara, the seat was warm but not hot. Good. I didn't immolate, self-immolate, so really appreciate that. Hope you folks enjoyed this episode of Storylines Live. We'll see you next time on the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, your capital S story, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkinsporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.